What is political canvassing? If that's your question, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to talk about what it is, why political candidates do it, and how it's done. Grab a pen because you're going to want to take notes. In a nutshell, political canvassing is a key component of any competitive election. If you remember nothing else, remember that. We're going to do a deep dive into exactly what it is, why candidates do it, the ways they do it, and how the experts do it to perfection. Let's start with what it is. Let's say you're running for public office, and in your jurisdiction, you've kind of got three kinds of voters. There are voters who have already decided to support you. There are voters who could be persuaded to support you, but right now are undecided. And then there are the voters who will not be voting for you because of your party affiliation or some other reason. What is the purpose of canvassing? It's to find those voters in your jurisdiction, your supporters, the undecided and the persuadable, and the people who are not going to vote for you. In its basic form, that is what political canvassing does. That is exactly what it is. Why do candidates do it? It's because it helps them save money. Because if they're canvassing a certain neighborhood, say 100 people in a particular neighborhood, and after the canvassing is done, they've got 50 people who are for them, they've got 25 people who are undecided, and then they got another 25 people who said, no, we're supporting the other candidate. The first thing you do is get those 25 people that are not for you off your mail list, off your digital targeting, off your Facebook advertising list, because there's no point in spending money trying to convince a voter who's already made up their mind to be against you to be for you. You take the money that you might otherwise allocate to them and invest more in persuading the undecided, or you invest more in getting the people who are for you out to vote. That's what political canvassing is, and that is why it's done. There is a secondary reason for why it's done, because it makes a difference. And I'll tell you a story. It was one of my favorite campaigns of all time. I had been watching a race that had been developing in the jurisdiction where I lived, and I was aware that one particular candidate had the support of the party establishment, and then there was another one trying to break the glass ceiling but wasn't getting anywhere. And much to my surprise, one day I got a call from her, and she says, have you noticed what they're doing to me? They're locking me out. They don't want me to have this job because I'm a woman. And I said, yes, I've noticed. She says, you know, I'm not going to win the convention now, even though I worked hard to win it, because they're going to tell all of these convention delegates that, no, it's not my turn. I said, yes, I've noticed that. She says, would you help me? Okay, we did. I went to work just for the sheer joy of helping her break down that wall that the party establishment had put up against her. We didn't have a lot of money. I think in the end we were able to do one mail piece. That was all we could afford to do. The other side was very, very well funded. And money was always a struggle in the course of the campaign. But there was one thing she could do that didn't cost a lot of money, and that was to go knock on doors. And as the one thing she did better than her opponent. We knew the doors we needed to knock. She was assiduously out every morning starting at 9 and never stopping till 6, knocking on the doors of voters that she needed to win. Long story short, she shocked the political establishment. And that began a career as a judge, one of the most prominent judges in this community, that is on its way to spanning a 20-year career behind the bench. That career goes down to her willingness to knock on doors in winning that primary by one vote. That's why I say canvassing makes a difference, and it can make the same kind of difference for you. So we've talked about what it is and why it's done. Now, let's talk about ways to do it. There are 4 ways I'm going to mention, and then we're going to spend the second half of this video talking about how to do it the best way. Number 1 is you can send surveys to people. You can send surveys to them in the mail. You can send surveys to them via text message. You can send surveys to them in an email and ask them to respond about whether they're going to vote for you, whether they're going to support your opponent. You can even ask them what their top issues are to get an idea of how to persuade those who are undecided. Short text messages are also used, not necessarily in an entire survey, but I do receive text messages every day saying, "Are you with me?" Or is there something more you need to know from me in order to make an informed decision? Those are very common forms of text messages as a way to canvass people in your jurisdiction. The same goes for email, the same kind of questionnaire. Now, why is door-to-door the preferred way to do this? It's because nothing beats a face-to-face conversation between a volunteer or a candidate and a voter, because it enables genuine, authentic, two-way communication. And when you're looking someone in the eye, truthfully, they're a lot more likely to tell you the truth than they are when they respond to a text message. That are the common ways to canvass people. Now, in the second half of this video, we're going to do a deep dive into that last one because it's really, really important. When you are doing door-to-door canvassing, there's always the question of manpower. A candidate canvassing a neighborhood can maybe do 15 to 20 doors in an hour. But if you have lots of volunteers willing to go out and do other neighborhoods while you are doing one, you multiply exponentially the number of doors that you can knock on. The key component of using volunteers are what we call precision targeting. And let me explain why that's important. In a typical congressional district in the United States of America, there are 450 to roughly 500,000 registered voters. 25% of those people don't vote. Those that do vote in a presidential year quite often do not vote in an off-year election. If you're running in a primary, you're only dealing with a small subset of voters that are affiliated with or registered in a political party. And I'll say, just from experience of registered Republicans in the state that I looked at yesterday, only 25% have ever voted in a primary, and the same was true of Democrats. So narrow down your audience to the kind of people who are eligible to vote for you in a contest, and then likely to vote in that contest, because it will save your volunteers tons of time. If you have no idea where to find this kind of data, leave a comment in the comments section and I'll give you a place to find it. Now, once you've pinpointed your precision list, it has to be converted into a walk list. So you're going to go into a community. You're not knocking on every door now. So your volunteers need to know out of 10 houses on this block which 4 or 5 they need to knock on. There's an additional component when you're creating a walk list. If you're sending a voter out to knock on 100 doors in an afternoon, and you're giving them a list of 100 doors, you want to create a map of that walk list so that volunteer takes the most efficient route possible from one door to the next. You don't want them walking all over this jurisdiction, doing a house on this end and then crossing and doing one on the other, because it's going to wear them out. It's going to waste their time. Now, think of this like a UPS driver would. He's leaving the warehouse in the morning. He's got 100 packages in the back of the truck. UPS doesn't want to waste the driver's time. UPS doesn't want to waste the gas. So they're going to give that driver a map of the most efficient way to start at point one and do the entire route in the most efficient way possible. That's what you want to do with your walk list before you send your volunteers out to canvass. The second piece of the how is make sure your volunteers are trained. That means you want them to be dressed appropriately. Here's the worst mistake somebody can make. Volunteer shows up dressed in a hoodie and a t-shirt with holes in it and baggy pants. Two seniors who see a person like that at their front door are not going to open the door because that person looks scary. Make sure they are well dressed. Make sure that they have a t-shirt on or a sticker on their lapel or a jacket that clearly identifies them as a volunteer for your political campaign. Give them coaching on their demeanor. And that simply means they are to be absolutely polite to the person they're talking to. Never, ever tell them to get into an argument with a voter, because if they do, more than likely it will end up in the newspaper. When they go out, you want to give them a little training on how they start the conversation. You're going to want to give them some literature to leave behind in case the person isn't home or in case the voter at the door wants more information about you. You're going to want to give them a little training on the scripts that they use before they engage in a conversation. Make sure they have plenty of literature to leave behind something about you with the voters they talk to, or to stick it in the door of the voter who may not have been home. This is the way it's done by the professionals. Now, you must keep track of the data that they collect, because otherwise all of this effort is for naught. So I'm going to say this about how you collect the data. There are plenty of apps available to you. If you go to Google and you put in door-to-door canvassing app, you're going to find a plethora of apps that you could use. I'm just going to say these firms pop up every couple of years, and then sometimes they promise the moon and then don't deliver. So if you've decided that this app that you're going to use that goes in the cell phones of your volunteers, so once they've had a conversation, they can enter into their cell phone the result of that conversation. That's what the app does. Make sure you get some references on the app before you buy it so that you don't send a bunch of volunteers out only to find that the apps don't work. Some candidates to this day prefer paper. It's also used. I've had clients say, I want nothing to do with the app, just give me a sheet of paper. That's fine. So remember this: precision targeting, training your volunteers, making sure that you collect and keep your data in a safe place. That's how the professionals do it. Oh, by the way, if you're thinking of running for office yourself, I got a free gift for you. It's called 12 Essential Steps to Prepare for a Political Campaign. It's in a link below this video. Go grab your copy before you leave. So where do we go from here? Canvassing is just one tool that's part of a political strategy. So now that you have become an expert on political canvassing, I'm going to encourage you to take a look at other tools at your disposal to disseminate your message in the course of a political campaign. The name of the video is What is a Political Strategy? Grab a pen, click on the link, and watch it, because you're going to want to take notes.